How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, and now we are officially into All-Star Weekend. And for most teams, and for most fans of most teams, it's pretty sad because it means that they don't get to see their team play for at least a good week because of the leeway between the start of All-Star Weekend and then the few days after that the players get off. But if you're a Chicago Bulls fan like myself, then it's probably come at the perfect time because I'm going to be honest with you, I've said many times this season, the Chicago Bulls are making me so disinterested in the NBA. It's so frustrating being a Chicago Bulls fan, and I've said I wouldn't do a Bulls video because I don't want to let any biases affect anything or anything like that, but enough is enough. I have to talk about the Chicago Bulls. But before we get into it, if you're new, subscribe, leave a like, comment down below what you want to see over the All-Star Weekend. Essentially just comment stuff that can make me enjoy basketball again, because the Chicago Bulls are doing their very best to ruin my enjoyment of the NBA. So the Bulls started the season pretty positively, actually. They beat Miami. They were beating teams around them. They were beating playoff contenders, but we're also losing to the likes of the Pistons, the Magic, teams that you would be expecting to beat, teams that we did beat last season, which is why this time last year we were the first seed in the East. Oh, how the times have changed. And what has changed between now and this time last year? It literally is just the fact that Lonzo Ball isn't playing. Is Lonzo Ball that big of a deal? I'm going ahead too far, but let's go back to the start of the season. We were playing at around about 500 ball after about 10 games ish, and then the front office decide to announce that they've extended Billy Donovan, and then the season just went not even like a downward spiral. It kind of just went I guess it kind of was a downward spiral, and then over the last few games. Well, for the last month, really, just a 90-degree down into the pits of NBA purgatory, because the Chicago Bulls, as much as AK likes to say that we're not, the Bulls are a mediocre team. They are now in NBA purgatory. But why? Because the Bulls don't have a bad team. They have 3 perennial All-Stars potentially, like DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic. These guys are all-star level players. And then they're being surrounded by good role players. Alex Caruso is one of the best role players in the NBA. Kobe White is having probably his best season of his career, in my opinion. Patrick Williams is Patrick Williams. It's a bit weird to see why the Bulls are doing so bad. And, with the fact that they don't own their first round pick this year unless it goes top 4 due to the Vucevic trade, the Bulls probably should have been trying to make a few moves at the deadline to just solidify the team, get a few more role players in, and make a push to the 7th and 8th seed, maybe even try and get in the 6th seed. Brooklyn losing losing KD and Kyrie, they're probably going to fall off a little bit. New York inconsistent, so are Miami. All it takes is a decent string of games. I remember a few weeks ago, the Bulls were only about 3 games back off the 6th seed. So what has really gone wrong over the past, not even month, since the start of this month, since the start of February, the Bulls' season have just gone off of the rails. And it's strange to see. It's really strange to see. Ultimately, it all starts at the trade deadline. When I say at the start of this month, not even that. In the past week, it's all gone to pot. The Bulls went into the trade deadline on a 3-game winning streak. They'd just beaten the Spurs and the Magic. Big banana skin games, and the Bulls did manage to win convincingly as well in both games. And then the trade deadline happened. The Bulls were about 3 games back from the 6th seed. They were in the 8th seed, I think. And they were close to maybe making that step up. They needed to make a trade, in my opinion, but they didn't really need to blow it up. They only needed to make a few little tweaks. They were in conversation for Kyrie Irving. They were in conversation for the likes of Kevin Durant as well, but obviously that didn't happen. And to be fair, I'm quite glad it didn't happen. Obviously, we're in talks with Jay Crowder as well. That didn't happen. And now in talks with Russell Westbrook and John Wall, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Ultimately, the Bulls did absolutely nothing in the trade deadline. They made 0 trades throughout the whole season, one of the only teams in the NBA to do so. I said in my last video that it was obviously a bit of a tough situation that the Bulls were in. You know, they didn't, other than Caruso and maybe Kobe White, they didn't have any major picks, any major like players that had good value that they could afford to trade. But equally, if you get rid of Alex Caruso, that does make the team worse, in my opinion. So they needed bench scoring essentially, and they didn't get it. And well, since the trade deadline, everything has gone bad. Everything essentially also went bad after Arturas Karnisovas said, "We are not settling for mediocrity here in Chicago." And then ever since, the Bulls have lost 6 straight off of the back of the trade deadline. Now, that 6-game losing streak does span back to the game before the trade deadline, so obviously apologies for saying that they had a 3-game win streak ahead of that. Ultimately, they did lose to the Grizzlies before the trade deadline, but I think everyone expected them to lose to the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are a solid team. It's kind of what happened after the deadline that has kind of ruined everything. They started the post-trade deadline games, not season really, is it? Games against the new-look Brooklyn Nets. What could possibly go wrong? Obviously, the Nets were still without Mikal Bridges. Anyone that they got from the Kevin Durant trade, they were without. You know, so they only had Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith, who they got from the Mavericks, as their new picks. They didn't have Kevin Durant, they didn't have Kyrie Irving. The Bulls it should have been a cakewalk. They should have taken advantage of a team that hasn't really played together that much. Well, their main players hadn't played together with that core. They kept Cam Thomas, who had been on fire in the stretch before the Bulls game, to no points in the first half, and were leading by a decent amount at halftime. And this is going to be a bit of a story for the rest of the video. They blew the lead and ultimately lost. It just does really describe everything that the Bulls have really done this year, losing games that they should win. And then speaking of games that they should win, in comes Cleveland. Cleveland had just returned from a big road trip the day before, so obviously they'll be a bit tired, you'd think. The Bulls obviously will have had a little bit more rest, less to travel as well, given that Cleveland are in their division. Next up was the Orlando Magic, and we all know what happens when you play the Orlando Magic. If you're a Chicago Bulls player, you forget how to play basketball and you lose to them. The other 2 games you could probably accept. You know, Cleveland are a solid team. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell hit 70 the last time we played Cleveland. Brooklyn, you know, yes, on paper their team isn't as good as what it has been throughout the whole of earlier in the season, but you know they're still a 5th, 6th seed. So you know, maybe when you look at that, the Nets, maybe you could credit the Nets with a win there. But Orlando again, it's just a story of the Chicago Bulls season. It's so frustrating, but we've not even hit the level of frustration yet. Next up, Indiana. The Indiana Pacers traveling to Indiana, an inter-division match. And the Bulls have probably one of the best first quarters you're ever going to see. They led by 24 at the end of the first quarter. So the Chicago Bulls, they come out, the absolutely mental game. Zach LaVine gets 35 points. They were up by 24 at the end of the first quarter. So obviously that's a routine win. You've got to be kidding me, man! Three wins in the last 20 games for the Indiana Pacers, and 2 of them have been against the Chicago Bulls. Why do I even bother? It's just depressing watching the Bulls at the moment. And then obviously they lost to the Bucks last night. But I think everyone was kind of expecting that almost. Although with the way that the Bulls play at the moment, who knows? Who knows what to expect? That's why I didn't do the video yesterday, because I was fully expecting us to maybe come out, turn into the 90s Bulls, especially given that we were on TNT. The Bulls had won 20 straight games when being televised by TNT, up until last night where they lost to Bucks team, who didn't have Giannis for most of the game after he went down with an injury. I hope he's alright for the All-Star game, but I digress. The Bulls now are on a 6-game losing streak. They are no longer in the play-in. They're quite far away from the play-in, and are now potentially looking at trying to get their top 4 pick for the next season. I get, maybe when Karnisova said, we're not going to be mediocre anymore. Maybe he was right. Maybe instead of being mediocre, the Bulls are now just downright bad. They're just not good anymore. I've got to survive 24 more games of this roster. No more trades are happening. If we get Russell Westbrook, I'll have to survive 24 more games of that roster and Russell Westbrook. No disrespect to Russell Westbrook, but he's never brought plain sailing vibes to a team, really, has he? A lot of stress when it comes to watching Russell Westbrook as a fan. If you're a Lakers fan, you probably know exactly what I mean. So that might be coming to the Bulls after the All-Star break. John Wall might be coming to the Bulls after the All-Star break. I'd just save it, really. I'd just save it. I'd save your money. So if we do end up rising to 4th overall, and we manage to keep a few key players, maybe next season could be somewhat decent. But Vucevic obviously on an expiring deal. DeRozan is regressing as well. He's starting to pick up a few injuries here and there. This Chicago Bulls team is bleak, and something needs to be done in the offseason at least, because the Bulls have such a massive history and they've been so mediocre for so long now that they need to start retooling, and they need to do it quickly, because it's a bit stupid. Let's be honest, and it's a bit boring watching the Bulls at the moment, knowing that on paper they have the talent, but ultimately it's just not working out for them for one way or another. Is it because Lonzo Ball's injured? Lonzo Ball's been out for a year. There's no real hope that he's going to be coming back this season. He might not even come back next season. We need to just get out of our head that Lonzo Ball coming back is going to transform this team, because it's not going to happen. It might not even happen that he'll come back, but when he does come back, it probably won't make the team click as much as they were doing in the first half of last season. So yeah, I mean, it is a bit depressing, but that's just what it is when you support a team like the Bulls, isn't it? You're going to have ups and downs. So let me know what you guys think about the Chicago Bulls situation in the comments. Do you think that they're going to end up tanking so much that they'll get a top 4 pick? If you're the Magic, that's a little bit depressing, but I mean, they're probably in a better position for the future at the moment than the Bulls are, so who knows. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure you're leaving a like, subscribe down below, share out the video with everyone, and I'll see you guys in the future. Peace.